Hello ladies and welcome back to the channel. My name is Mark Roden, and in today's video we are going to be going over the top 21 because I was going to do just a top 10, but then I was like, oh, this one's good, this one's good, this one's good, and it got to the point where now there's 21 of them and I'm not going to go back through and delete them. So the best 21 cars that are cheap, under 10k, to take racing. Now, I have kept in mind everybody, so there's cars here for drifting, there's cars here for circuit racing, rally racing, drag racing, but they're all a car that's cheap, under 10k, that you can buy and go take racing, buddy. Song of the day is Maroon 5, Beautiful Mistakes. It's a pop song, and oh my god, it's so good though. Like, people are gonna make fun of me because it has Megan Thee Stallion in it and Maroon 5, and it's so girly. But I don't care, man. I listen to that all the time. I don't care if there's 50 other people in my car with me, I'm putting it on. It's a banger. But without further ado, let's go right into the list with number 21. Numero 21 is going to the Toyota Celica GT 6th generation, not the 7th gen. I usually talk about the 7th gen in my videos, but today we're talking about the 6th gen because, in my opinion, it's just a better all-around car for racing, and not even that, but it just has more like of a history to it than the 7th generation does. The car comes with a 2.2 liter inline-4, making 135 horsepower, and it's front-wheel drive. Now, obviously, that horsepower number is pretty low. There's going to be a couple of cars like that where the horsepower number is low, and you're going to be like, what? How is that a good car to go racing if the horsepower number is so low? Well, because it's lightweight, okay? But not everything has to have a high horsepower number. It's only going to be, that's only for like drag racers. You know, there are tons of people out there that race Miata. Like, Miatas are like #1 race car in the world. But anyway, Celica GT 6th gen, obviously this car is mainly a rally car, but you can use it on like a regular racetrack if you want to and do circuit racing and stuff like that with it. I wouldn't recommend like drifting it or anything like that, but it's a good rally car. Coming in at number 20 is like the new age Miata, pretty much, the Subaru BRZ ZN6, not the new one, obviously. The new one is still like, how much are they selling those things for? They're selling them for pretty expensive, if I remember correctly, but the old ones are getting cheap. They're under 10k now. They come with a 2 liter flat 4, making 200 horsepower, and they are rear wheel drive. These are another car where it's kind of like, you kind of have two options here. You could do the drifting route, which is what most people do with their BRZs, or you can take them to tracks, autocross events, stuff like that, because they're just so damn light. They're literally so light, and they're nimble, and they have a actually pretty decent horsepower for their weight. Like 200 horsepower, people make fun of it for that, but they're really light cars, man. 200 horsepower goes a long way. Number 19, however, is going to probably one of the most popular cars out there for like just grassroots racing events, the Volvo 240. The Volvo 240 is used in just about everything. Rally racing, maybe drag racing. I don't see it that often in drag racing though, but drifting or circuit racing, whatever, it's used there. It comes with a 2.3 liter inline-4, making 114 horsepower, and it is rear wheel drive. Now, these cars are again used everywhere, but they're mainly used in Europe. Lots of Europeans be using these bad boys whenever they're going out there. But I think it's time for us Americans to wake up to the potential of a Volvo 240, dude. These things are good for just about everything. Literally just about everything, man. Just go out there and pick one up. 18th place, however, is a car that's not good for just about everything. It is the Toyota MR2 SW20. Now, I actually think they came out with, no, it was the AW11. But with the AW11 MR2, they had a rally car version of that. So, I mean, I guess it could be a rally car if you really wanted it to, but realistically, it's a circuit car. It comes with a 2.2 liter inline-4, making 135 horsepower, and it's rear wheel drive. Everybody that drives these things constantly is like, oh my god, once you get the handling down, it's great. And that's because it is. It's a lightweight, small wheelbase little missile. Okay, obviously you do have to be careful, be a little wary of the fact that they are mid-engine and they are rear wheel drive. So you got to be a little bit careful of that. But once you get that down, dude, these are circuit monsters, little canyon carving beasts. 17th, however, is a car that's possibly flies under the radar of people that are thinking about getting into the old racing habitat. It is the Porsche Boxster 986. The 986 Porsche Boxster gets its hate. It gets its fair share of its hate because honestly, it is kind of a disappointing car for Porsche. But it's a good car if you just want a cheap little race car. It comes with a 2.7 liter flat 6, making 217 horsepower, and it's rear wheel drive. It's actually a pretty decent horsepower number for this list. And on top of that, yes, it's like a pretty bad Porsche, but it's still a Porsche. Okay, and Porsches are just, they're bred to be race cars, and these are no different. It's pretty much a Porsche Cayman, but a convertible Porsche Cayman. And would you race a Porsche Cayman? Of course you would. 16th is going to one of our American pals, Dodge. The Dodge Neon SRT4. Specifically the SRT4, but honestly, even the regular Neon, if you're going for like really tight autocross events, could be good. But the problem is those cars are a little underpowered, so you really got to rely on the fact that it's lightweight. But either way, the SRT4 comes with a 2.4 liter turbocharged inline-4, making 230 horsepower in its front-wheel drive. These things are, again, incredibly lightweight. 230 horsepower is very good out of the gate, but the motor's actually pretty good for building power on. Yes, they're rising in price, and I don't think they're like a good deal anymore, but at least you know you won't lose your money, because if you buy one, they're just going to keep rising in price, so that's a good thing. 15th place, however, is probably one of the most popular cheap race cars in the world, the Ford Mustang GT Fox Body. Fox Body Mustangs, oh my Lanta. If you bring up Fox Body Mustang to the wrong guy, you will have a yap competition. Okay, that guy is going to yap your ear off, because they are good race cars. They come with a 5-liter V8 making 223 horsepower in their rear-wheel drive. Now, every year of Fox Body Mustang had a different horsepower number, so I just went with this one. But it obviously depends on the year that you get. But honestly, it doesn't even matter, because most Fox Body guys swap it for an LS anyways, and then they take it to the drag racing strips. Now, Fox Bodies have been seen in like drifting, and they've been on the track a couple times before, but most of the time it's drag racing, and they're really good drag cars for that, man. Their platform is incredible. 14th is going to the Subaru Impreza 2.5 RS GC. Now, you can actually find a WRX GC Impreza under 10K in the States still if it's beat up and it's a bad condition, but we're just going to go with the 2.5 RS because it's kind of the same thing. It comes with a 2.5 liter flat 4 making 165 horsepower in its all-wheel drive. Obviously, Subarus have a notorious reputation of being pretty good rally cars, and so that's where I'm going to go with on this one. If you buy this one, take it rally racing. Now, obviously, Subarus, because they're good rally cars, also means that they're pretty good on the track as well, so you can do either one. But I really think if you buy a Subaru Impreza and you take that bad boy off-roading and you freaking hit some jumps and just run around dirt trails, dude, you're gonna have a blast. 13th is another Japanese car, because Japanese cars are just good little cheap race cars, okay? I don't know what to tell you. It's the Nissan 240SX S13, probably one of the most overhyped cars in the community right now, but who cares, because they are pretty good for what they are. Obviously, they're good for drifting, but they're also good for like track performance and stuff like that. People sleep on that part of them. They come with a 2.4 liter inline-4 making 140 horsepower, and they are rear-wheel drive. And again, these cars are, I know I keep saying this, but they're lightweight. They're nimble little cars. Like, yes, drifting is probably the number one thing for these cars, and I would definitely recommend trying to at least slide your S13 if you buy one. But if you want a like little track car, dude, they're not bad options for that either. They are overpriced, but at least they're not going to come down in price. 12th place is just going to a car that's just, I mean, if you talk about race cars, you have to talk about it. It's the Chevy Corvette C4. Now, you could also buy a C5. I would have put the C5 on this list, but I always put the C5 on my list. So I was like, you know what? We're going C4 today, buddy. We're talking C4. They come with a 5.7 liter V8, making 202 horsepower in its rear-wheel drive. Just like the Fox Body before, though, every year is different in terms of their horsepower numbers, so you just gotta look at what you're getting and make sure that you know what you're getting. But that's not even the point anyway. The point is the fact that these are Corvettes. Okay, Corvettes have always been just track monsters. They handle like a dream. They usually have a pretty decent amount of horsepower to back it up. This one doesn't honestly have a lot of horsepower to back it up, but to fix that, they made the car really light. The C4 Corvette's a lot lighter than a lot of other Corvettes, so it handles just as well. 11th place is going to my car, the Acura Integra DC4, specifically the LS. You can find GSRs under 10K as well. I don't know if I necessarily would recommend going for that. LS Integras are just as good. And well, not just as good, obviously the GSRs are better, but the LS Integras offer a pretty good amount of stuff too. They come with a 1.8 liter inline-4 making 140 horsepower in their front wheel drive. Obviously it's a pretty low horsepower number, but it comes with a B series, my boy. Okay, B series are pretty good motors to build, and on top of that, the Integra only weighs like 200 more pounds than a Miata. Okay, like they're light cars. And take it from me, these boys handle. These boys grip up and rip up, my friend. Now, they are front-wheel drive, so you're not drifting these bad boys, and you're also not going to take these into rally racing, but circuit racing, and honestly even drag racing because of the B series, is pretty good. 10th place is a car that's really popular overseas for grassroots racing, but honestly, here in America, I feel like we don't see enough of them. It's the Ford Fiesta. The Ford Fiesta overseas, it's like a freaking, they use those things in everything. They use them absolutely everywhere. Same with like the Volkswagen Polo, but here in the States, not that much. They come with a 1.6 liter inline 4, making 118 horsepower in their front wheel drive. Yes, we are talking about the base model Fiesta, not the Fiesta ST. So 118 horsepower is low, but the car is light. It has a very small wheelbase. It's so small that you could probably just freaking rip around the smallest you could go on a go-kart track with a Ford Fiesta and be competitive. This thing would be a monster. But 9th place is a car that was bred to race. This car came out and it was like, I want to race. Let me go to a racetrack. It's the Porsche 944. The fact that there's 2 Porsches on this list and we're talking about cars under 10K is incredible. Look at the world that we live in, man. You can buy a Porsche for under $10,000. The 944 comes with a 2.5 liter inline 4, making 147 horsepower in its rear-wheel drive. It kind of suffers the same fate as the Boxster before it, which is the reason why it's so cheap. It's that, yes, it's still a Porsche, but it's a pretty bad Porsche at that. However, it's still a Porsche. It still handles like a Porsche. It still drives like a Porsche. It's not going to be as fast as a Porsche. It's not going to be as good as like a 911, but it's still a Porsche, and you can drive this bad boy around any freaking racetrack and be competitive. 8th place, however, is going to a car I talk about a lot in my videos, the BMW 335i E9X, E92, E90, E91, E93, whatever one you want to buy. I would recommend sticking to an E90 or an E92 though, because the convertibles and wagons are not going to be as good, obviously, as a sedan or a coupe will. Either way, they come with a 3 liter twin turbocharged inline 6, making 300 horsepower. Pretty high number for this list, and it's rear-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. You can obviously choose which one you want to go there. If you're going the drifting route, because let me tell you, these cars can be used for literally everything. It doesn't matter what you're going for: rally racing, circuit racing, autocross, drag racing, drifting. They're a good option for that. So you can go the rear-wheel drive route if you want to do that. All-wheel drive if you're handling more about like drag racing or circuit racing. But either way, they're always a good option, and the reason why is because the motor under the hood, N54. Goodness gracious. From a car I talk about all the time to a car I talk about never, 7th place is the Ford Focus SVT. This thing, I got the videos before I'm filming this. It was impossible to find a cool video of this car racing, so you're just gonna have to deal with what's in the background. But they are so underrated. They come with a 2 liter inline 4, making 170 horsepower in their front wheel drive. 170 horsepower is pretty freaking good, especially for the time they were made, dude. These cars were made in like the early 2000s. That's pretty good, and they're still a Ford Focus, so they still have like the perfect, like, not perfect, but the very good wheelbase, lightweight body style to them. They're good cars, man. Like, I don't sleep on the Ford Focus SVT. Don't sleep on them. From one incredibly underrated hatchback to another, we're just banging these bad boys out of here. It's the Honda Civic SI EP3. I always talk about EK Civics. I always talk about EG Civics. And I always talk about 8th gen Civics. I don't know the chassis codes for those. FA1 or something like that, I think it is. But the EP3, the 7th gen Civic SIs, even I sleep on them. They come with a 2 liter inline 4, making 160 horsepower in their front wheel drive. And yes, they have a weird shift knob. Yes, they look a little awkward compared to the rest of the Civic family, but dude, they are actually pretty good. They're still a Civic SI. And since they are so slept on, they're cheap. They're cheap Civic SIs, like one of the cheapest Civic SIs in the world that you can buy, besides like the 8th gen. But like they're 5th place is going to my old car, and it hurts to say that, man. I really wish I just didn't sell it. It's the Nissan 350Z. The Nissan 350Z is obviously a sports car under 10K that most people look at when they're thinking about buying one. It makes sense. They are still such a good deal nowadays. They come with a 3.5 liter V6, making 306 horsepower in their rear wheel drive. Now, obviously, what 90% of 350Z owners do in terms of motorsports is drifting or takeovers. People like to take them to takeovers for some reason, but most of the time, if they're actual motorsports, it's drifting. But dude, 350Zs weren't built to be like a drift car. Obviously, they were built to be a track performance like oriented car, and they're pretty good at that. Limited slip differential from factory, 300 horsepower from factory. Yeah, they're a little heavy, but they're good cars for track racing and drifting. Another car that's good for track racing and drifting is the BMW E36. Now, I'm just going to say the E36 here. You can get a 328i, you can get a 325i, you can get a 323i, you can get a 318 Ti, and get the weird little compact. You can get an M3, not under 10K, but you can get one of those. But obviously, they all are just going to have a different motor depending on which one you get, but it's not really what we're buying an E36 for anyways. The E36 is just a good platform. It doesn't really matter what motor you get. Yeah, it kind of does, obviously, if you're racing, but not that much. Most people swap E36 motors anyway, and even if they don't, they usually don't build them up that much. They just use them for the platform. The platform is just incredible. There's a reason why 3 Series have been just a monster in motorsports since the E30. They are just good cars. But third place is one that's honestly, in my opinion, slept on in the internet. Now, not in my state. In my state, I live in Connecticut, and people freaking 16-year-olds buy Volkswagen GTI Mark IVs, which is what third place is, all the time. They buy these things all the freaking time in Connecticut, but I never see it on like YouTube. Like people on YouTube don't talk about them enough. They come with a 1.8 liter turbo inline 4, making 170 horsepower in their front wheel drive. These motors are impossible to blow up. Not really. They're European, so they're still possible to blow up, but they're pretty damn good at handling boost. You can get some nice boost out of these. They're obviously a pretty good track performance car, but people also like to turn these into little drag racers. You could do pretty much whatever you want with them, though. I'm not going to be the one to stop you. Second place, we mentioned it at the beginning of this video, but we have to put it here because it is just an icon in the motorsports world. It's the Mazda Miata N. Yes, it gets a little overhyped on TikTok. Yes, this car is definitely overpriced at its point now. Literally 3 years ago, you could have bought them for like $2 grand, and now it's pretty hard to find them under 5. It's insane, but they're still a very good option. They come with a 1.8 liter inline 4, making 135 horsepower in their rear wheel drive. I don't think I have to explain this to you, but if I do, here's the reason why they're so good at motorsports. They're so small. They are so, like, you're going to notice that when you get into motorsports, that smaller cars to like lighter weight cars, that matters a lot. And the Miata is the #1 car for that in America. These things are autocross monsters. Obviously not that great on circuit racing because it does have a lot more like flat out areas on a circuit, but autocross monsters, drag racing monsters if you swap the motor, and drifting monsters. They're just such good cars. But in my opinion, the best cheap race car to get yourself into nowadays is without a doubt the Subaru WRX Bug-Eye. That could also be the Hawkeye. That could also be the Blob-Eye. Yeah, I just picked the Bug-Eye here because I wanted to use the Bug-Eye. It's a pretty fun car to talk about. I don't get to talk about it enough. The car comes with a 2 liter turbo flat 4, making 225 horsepower, and it's all-wheel drive. Again, the Hawkeye and the Blob-Eye are the same car, just facelifted. But either way, they're so good. Obviously, they're incredible for their rally racing heritage. So if you want to do rally racing, this is obviously a really good option for you. But even if you don't, they're good track cars, man. You can swap WRXs to rear-wheel drive if you really wanted to and make them drift cars as well. I don't recommend doing that, but you could. They're just good at everything. Drag racing, because it does have a Boxster motor under the hood, it's going to be good for the amount of time that it runs. Obviously, it'll probably blow up pretty soon into your drag racing endeavors, but for the time it runs, it'll be good. It's just a good option. But ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of today's video of the 21 cars that are cheap, that are good race cars in the world. I was rambling. I didn't know what I was going to say there. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel for more content just like this. Let me know what other videos you'd like to see in the comment section down below. And also, if you made it all the way to this point in the video, you probably care about me. Stop, man. You don't have to stop. So if you do, I wanted to let you know I've been playing this game. I'm not a gamer, man. I'm really not. Like I play racing games quite often, and that's about my extent of knowledge when it comes to video games. But I've been playing this game called Pal World with my friends, dude. Oh my Lanta, give it a try. Go play it. I don't care if you are freaking the #1 advocate against video games. I do not care. Go play it and you will love it, dude. It's like Pokemon, and I hate Pokemon. I've never played Pokemon in my life, but it's like Pokemon, but you can like make them craft things for you. It's like Minecraft, Pokemon, Elden Ring, which was a fun game in my opinion. My cat was over there doing some backflips or something. And it has guns in it too. It's such a fun game, dude. I've been playing it with my friends. It is so much fun. Go give it a shot. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate it. Das Vidania, and have a nice night.